ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
And welcome to Majesty Royal Palace of Fortress, the town of London, a World Heritage Site. My name is Peter. I'm one of 37 yeoman wardens that lives and works within the walls of the town, commonly known as the Beefeater. I'll tell you all about that later on the tour. Together we're going to walk down the cobblestone path of time. The kings and queens have walked for over 500 years. I'm going to point out some famous buildings and structures and explain some of their fascinating history. It should take about 5 hours. Alright, an hour. I don't mind if you take part. I don't care if you cheer.
Yay!
I don't care if you laugh. I don't care if you cry.
Oh.
I don't care if you tear. That's better. Just take part and enjoy it. I don't mind the odd snapshots. Don't try and film the whole thing. Who do you think I am? Mel Gibson. Our story begins in the year 1066 when William, Duke of Normandy, better known as William the Well done, conquered, defeated the Saxon King Harold II at the Battle of Normandy. Very quiet, Normandy, Hastings! 50-50 soaring for them. William was crowned King William I of England on Christmas Day of that year. He continued to have to fight the people of England, who did not take kindly to Norman domination. William needed to build a citadel to impress and overawe the people of London, and he chose an area to the east of the city, on the site of an old Roman fort, and thus built his royal palace and fortress in 1078, the first of its kind in England. We know the building today as the White Tower, and is located behind those trees, and we will get a better view of it later on in the tour. Don't look now because the trees are in the way. Over the years, successive monarchs have added to the defences of the town, and in 1220, an inner defensive wall consisting of 13 smaller towers was built. In 1280, a lower outer wall was added, and has 6 towers facing south to defend against attack from the area of the River Thames. How many towers have we in total? 13 on the inner wall, 6 on the outs, plus. So in total we have how many towers here? 20. You've learned so much in such a small space of time. I'm filling up. There are also 2 strong bastions defending against attack from the north. They can see what the bulging legs mount, and further round on the northeast corner is a bulging brass mount. During the reign of King Henry VIII, they were modified to house cannons on those very shelves. Now, the third line of defence was the water-filled ditch or moat, dug during the reign of Edward I and designed by a chap called Master Walter, an expert specially brought across from Holland. Anyone here from Holland? Well done, we'll talk about your moat later on. Anyway, the moat was originally 120 foot deep, wide, 50 foot deep as you see today, and was designed to use the tidal flow from the River Thames. You see, twice a day the river would run into and around the moat and keep it clean. Now this system worked well at first, however, later on, lots of rubbish and excrements from the city and its shortage became trapped in the moat. We had in fact succeeded in building the largest, filthiest cesspit in Europe. Some would say the best defence the town ever had. Thank you for that. People out with that defence. Now, it was to stay that way for a further 500 years. We didn't hang about in those days. Until in 1843, the Duke of Wellington asked permission from Queen Victoria to have the moat drained. Permission was duly granted, and the moat was drained and filled with sand and shingle to the level you see today. It was then used as an exercise and playground by soldiers from within the tower garrison, of which was over 1,000 in those days. Now, apart from being a royal palace and fortress, the town has had many other uses. The crown jewels have been safely stored here since 1303. The Royal Mint was located within these walls, where all coins of the realm were designed and produced. It was the site of the first Royal Observatory, studying stars and planets, until moved to Greenwich in the 17th century. It was an armoury for warlike stores and equipment. Official records of the King's and Queen's courts were stored here, until moved to form the Public Records Office in the 19th century. It was the site of the first Royal Menagerie Zoo, where the royal collection of exotic animals were kept, until moved to Regent's Park in the 19th century. You see, heads of states and kings and queens from all over the world were sent our kings and queens great gifts in the form of beasts. They sent us this thing we'd never heard of before, called an elephant. So it was given to us young warders to look after, which we were proud to do so. So we fed it on loads of bread, fine wine and port. And it died. Very, very handy. Last but by no means least, this was ranked as one of the most famous prisons in all the world. Talking of prisons, they asked you to turn around and look up the hill at the large, white, prominent building with lots of statues on it. It's coming out of that tree there. That building was originally built to house the Port of London Authority, which to this day controls all the shipping up and down the River Thames. And as such, has absolutely nothing to do with the tower. I just like it. However, it does serve as a useful landmark for me to point out of St. Peter the Beefeater. We're going to walk inside that chapel later on in the tour. Now, first victim, 1381, Simon Sudbury, Archbishop of Canterbury. He was murdered at the hands of peasants for daring to introduce another tax. No ideas here? Anyway, 7 years later, 1388, the first legal execution would take place. That's of Sir Simon Burley. And by remarkable coincidence, the last execution to take place up on Tower Hill, 1747, was yet another Simon, Simon Fraser, Lord of Lovett, an 8-year-old Scottish lord who supported the Second Jacobite Rebellion. Anyone here want to own up to having the name Simon? I didn't think you would. Now, just for a moment, let us pause and imagine the scene on the day of execution. That prisoner will be taken from the tower up to the bulwark gates, which used to stand poetically where the ticket office now stands. The prisoner will be handed over to the Sheriff of London and taken to the site of execution. Thousands would gather round the raised platform, the scaffold, to witness the day's activities. The prisoner would say his final words and after praying would kneel down and place his neck on the block of oak. At the given signal or word, the executioner would then bring down his mighty axe, hopefully to sever the head at his single stroke, which very rarely happened. It wasn't accurate. The axe wasn't on that shelf. The executioner would then eventually pick up the severed and still bleeding head from their basket and would proclaim, "Behold the head of a traitor, so die all traitors, God save the king." And the crowd would cheer.
Yay!
Hallelujah. The head was then placed on the soldier's pike. Big end. So it would go on this soldier's pike and then by a yeoman warder carried to London Bridge. It was then displayed as a sign of faith that awaited all would-be traitors. Meanwhile, the headless corpse will be taken down, placed into a small handcart, brought back into the tower, where it will be quickly buried in an unmarked grave in the Chapel Royal of St. Peter the Beefeater, normally within 24 hours. Just to quickly retrace the journey from the area of execution, we're going to come down the area from the execution to the bulwark gates. You would then walk down across the drawbridge towards the remains of the Lion Tower. That's where the Royal Menagerie Zoo was once located, just behind this wall here. In those days you would have to come across yet another drawbridge around and through the archway of the Middle Tower, so named as it once stood in the middle of the moat. The Middle Tower was built in 1280 and renovated in 1717, when the Royal Coat of Arms was placed over the arch. Obviously on the other side for those who block it, this was the coat of arms of King George I, our first monarch from the House of Hanover in Germany. Now, due to its location near the entrance, very few prisoners were ever held within its walls. It was mainly used as a guard room and later became the garrison hospital. Even then, in those days, you would have to cross yet another drawbridge to get to the Bywood Tower. Also built in 1280, the Bywood Tower gets its name from being by the ward or by the word, as it is there at 3 o'clock every afternoon. The officer, with his escort, comes to collect the secret password to take back to the soldiers in their guard room. A different password is used every night of the year and is only issued to those who need to enter the inner ward after midnight. That tower, like most towers in this complex, has served as a prison within a prison. Okay. Now as we pass below the archway of the Bywood Tower, I would like you to look up at the portcullis or drop gate. It dates from 1326. So does the rope that's holding it up. One of two surviving portcullis we have here at the tower. I'll show you the one later on the tour. Also look out for the 3 circular holes in the stonework above your head. They are known as bird the holes and probably used by occupants to empty their waste buckets to the pinchway cart as it passed below the arch. I know the yeoman warden lives in that tower, so when I say look out, I really do mean look out. We are now going into the outer ward of the town of London. Please remember over here to let me through because I'm in charge.